Today, the world is watching two major geopolitical flashpoints that carry the potential to reshape international power dynamics in 2026. One is unfolding in Washington, where President Trump is meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss Iran's nuclear program. The other is intensifying in Europe, where Russia's war in Ukraine continues and NATO is expanding its military presence along its northern flank. Individually, each situation is serious. Together, they could trigger far-reaching global consequences.
We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
These two theaters are not isolated crises. They represent interconnected pressure points within a shifting global order marked by strategic rivalry, alliance recalibration, and economic fragility. Decisions made in Washington, Moscow, Kiev, Tehran, and Jerusalem over the coming weeks could determine whether tensions stabilize through diplomacy or accelerate toward broader confrontation. The Trump-Netanyahu discussions regarding Iran and the ongoing escalation surrounding Ukraine and NATO deployments are currently the developments with the greatest potential to reshape international power dynamics. The world now waits to see whether restraint or escalation defines the next chapter.
So we'll see. I hope they make a deal. I hope they make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time they'd have a country.
The meeting between Trump and Netanyahu centers on Iran's advancing nuclear capabilities and the strategic options available to counter them. For Israel, Iran represents a direct and existential security threat. For the United States, Iran poses a broader regional challenge involving deterrence, alliance management, and energy stability. If diplomatic efforts fail and Israel decides to conduct military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, the repercussions could be immediate and severe. Iran could retaliate through proxy forces such as Hezbollah in Lebanon or militias operating in Iraq and Syria. US military assets in the region could become targets, drawing Washington deeper into the conflict. One of the most significant risks in this scenario involves global energy markets. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical maritime choke point through which roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes, could become a flashpoint. Any disruption there would likely cause oil prices to spike sharply, fueling inflation worldwide and placing renewed pressure on already fragile economies. Beyond energy markets, a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran could escalate into a broader regional war involving Gulf states and reshaping alliances across the Middle East. At the same time, Europe remains on edge as the war in Ukraine grinds on. Russian strikes continue to cause civilian casualties, while Western nations debate the future trajectory of military support for Kiev. Norway's defense leadership has warned about potential Russian strategic moves in the Arctic, particularly concerning nuclear assets and emerging shipping routes made accessible by melting ice. In response, Britain has announced plans to double its troop presence in Norway over the next 3 years, reinforcing NATO's northern defenses. The Arctic is increasingly becoming a strategic arena. As climate change opens new maritime routes and resource opportunities, military positioning in the region has taken on heightened importance. An expanded NATO presence near Russian territory could be perceived by Moscow as escalation, increasing the risk of miscalculation. Even a minor incident in such a tense environment could spiral into a broader confrontation between NATO and Russia, a scenario that would carry global security implications far beyond Eastern Europe. If tensions intensify simultaneously in both the Middle East and Europe, the global system could face compounded instability. Energy market disruptions from a Middle East conflict, combined with prolonged war-related uncertainty in Europe, could reignite inflation and slow global growth. A deeper NATO-Russia standoff would heighten military alert levels across the continent. Defense spending would likely surge worldwide as governments respond to rising security threats, redirecting national budgets toward military preparedness.